All right, let's talk Ethereum. If you've ever tried to do, well, anything on Ethereum during a busy time, you know the pain. The gas fees are just brutal, and the wait times can be maddening. But what if I told you there's a way to get all the security of Ethereum, but with super fast speeds and costs that are next to nothing? Well, that's exactly what Layer 2 is promise. So today, we're going to be your guide through this whole new world.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll tackle Ethereum's scaling problem, why we even need L2s. Then we'll get into the solution itself. After that, we're doing a deep dive on optimism, and then another one on Polygon's two very different worlds. We'll also take a peek at what's on the L2 horizon. And finally, we'll talk about your next move, how to actually choose where to go.
All right, first up, Ethereum's scaling problem. And it's kind of funny because the root of the problem is that Ethereum is just too popular. It's a victim of its own success.
I mean, think about it, right? Everyone and their dog wants to use Ethereum for DeFi, for NFTs, for gaming, you name it. And all that demand creates this massive digital traffic jam. The whole network gets clogged up, transactions start crawling at a snail's pace, and the gas fees, they can just go through the roof. It makes doing anything small totally pointless. It's a huge, huge bottleneck.
And this really gets to the core of why this happens. It's something called the blockchain trilemma, a term Vitalik Buterin came up with. The idea is simple. You have three things you want in a blockchain: security, decentralization, and scalability. The catch? You can only really pick two. Ethereum went all in on security and decentralization, which is awesome, but it meant scalability took a backseat. You just can't have it all, at least not on one layer. And that is the exact puzzle L2s are here to solve.
So that's the problem. What about the solution? Well, here they come, Layer 2s. This is the tech that's trying to give us the best of all worlds. Faster, cheaper, but still secured by Ethereum. The best way to think about this is that Ethereum is a super busy, congested highway, and L2 is like building a brand new express lane right on top of it. It pulls a ton of traffic, all those transactions, off the main road, processes them super fast and super cheap, and then just reports back the final results to the main Ethereum highway. So you get the speed of the express lane, but you're still benefiting from the rock-solid security of the main road. It's pretty genius, really.
And the magic that makes these express lanes work, it's a technology called a roll-up. It's exactly what it sounds like. Instead of every single transaction getting its own spot on the main chain, a roll-up rolls up hundreds of them into one neat little bundle. It processes all of them off to the side and then posts a single compressed summary back to Ethereum. It's like sending one moving truck with 100 boxes instead of 100 separate cars. It just saves a ton of space and money. Now, things get interesting because there are two main flavors of these rollups. First, you've got optimistic rollups. Their philosophy is basically trust but verify. They just assume all the transactions in a batch are good to go, but they leave a window of time for anyone to come along and say, hey, wait a minute, and prove there was fraud. Then you have ZK rollups. These are totally different. They're more like, show me the proof. They use some seriously complex math to generate a cryptographic proof that proves every single transaction is valid, right from the start. No trust needed, just pure math. Okay, theory's great, but let's get into the real world. We're going to start our deep dive with optimism, which, as you might guess from the name, is one of the biggest optimistic rollups out there.
So what's the deal with optimism, or OP mainnet? Well, their vision is actually way bigger than just one single Layer 2. They're building something they call the superchain. The idea is to have a whole network of different L2s that can all talk to each other and work together seamlessly. They want to avoid a future where we have a bunch of isolated L2 islands and instead build one giant connected continent.
Okay, that sounds cool, but how do you actually use it? Like, if you want to jump into DeFi on Optimism, what are the steps?
You'll be happy to hear it's actually pretty straightforward. Step 1, you just need to add the Optimism network to your wallet, like MetaMask. A site like chainlist.org makes this a one-click process. Step 2, you gotta get your money over there. This is called bridging. You can use the official Optimism bridge or a third-party one like a Cross, which is often faster. And that's it. Step 3 is just to explore. Head over to superchain.eco and you'll find a whole universe of apps to play with. All right, let's move on to our next deep dive, Polygon. And we need to be clear here, because this is where a lot of people get tripped up. There isn't just one Polygon. It's really two different worlds we're talking about, a sidechain and a ZK rollup. And this leads us to maybe the number one question about Polygon. Why on earth do I need to use the Matic token for gas? I mean, on most other L2s, you just use ETH. So what gives?
Well, the answer comes down to what it actually is. The main Polygon network that most people use, the one called Polygon POS, isn't technically a rollup. It's a sidechain. That means it runs alongside Ethereum, but it has its own security, its own validators. And because it has to pay for its own security, it needs its own token, Matic, to pay for gas and reward those validators. It doesn't borrow its security from Ethereum like a true L2 does.
This chart makes the difference super clear. You've got Polygon POS on one side, it's a sidechain, it uses Matic for gas, and it handles its own security. This is the one that's been around for a while and has a massive ecosystem. Then on the other side, you have Polygon ZK EVM. That is a true ZK rollup. It uses ETH for gas, and it inherits its security directly from Ethereum. It's built for things that need that top-tier Ethereum-level security. So yeah, two totally different beasts under the same Polygon brand. So, to put a fine point on it, does Polygon use zero-knowledge tech? Yes, absolutely. They are huge on ZK. But you'll find that tech in their Polygon ZK EVM chain. That's their real Layer 2 rollup, the one that goes head-to-head with the other ZK projects and uses ETH for gas, just like you'd expect.
Okay, so we've looked at Optimism and Polygon, but the L2 world is huge. So let's zoom out a bit and see what else is on the horizon, from other big chains to some really futuristic tech. And man, is this landscape packed. You've got to know about Arbitrum. It is the absolute giant right now in terms of money locked up. It's the main stage for DeFi. Then there's Base, which was launched by Coinbase. Its killer feature is the super easy on-ramp for all of Coinbase's millions of users. And you can't forget ZK Sync, another huge player in the ZK rollup game, building out its own big vision for an interconnected network. But if you want to look at what's really on the cutting edge, you need to hear about a project called Mega ETH. This thing is wild. It's a next-gen L2 that's all about insane performance. We're talking 10 millisecond block times. That's practically real time. They're even trying to get rid of block gas limits altogether. And they're not doing it alone. They're already partnered with huge names like Chainlink and Ethena to build out their ecosystem from day one. Now, this is still very much in development. It's not live yet. But if you're like me and you want to keep tabs on this kind of crazy ambitious project, the best way is just to go straight to the source. Check out their official website, follow their blog and announcements. That's where you'll get the real story as it unfolds.
Whew, okay, we have covered a ton of ground. So let's land the plane. With all of these different chains and technologies, how do you actually choose? What's your next move for DeFi?
Let's make this super simple. Think about what you want to do. If you're looking for the biggest DeFi ecosystem with the most liquidity, you start with Arbitrum, period. If you just want the easiest, smoothest way to get started from an exchange like Coinbase, Base is your on-ramp. Are you excited about a future where all these chains work together? Then go explore Optimism's superchain. If you just want a huge, established world of low-cost apps, Polygon POS is still a fantastic choice. And finally, if you want to be on the cutting edge of tech, then you should be diving into ZK Sync or Polygon's ZK EVM. And all of this leaves us with one last massive question to think about. As these Layer 2s get faster and cheaper and start handling pretty much all of the world's transactions, what happens to Ethereum itself? Does it just disappear into the background? Does it become this invisible, ultra-secure foundation that nobody really interacts with directly, but that underpins this entire universe of chains? That's the big question for the future, and honestly, the answer is probably worth trillions. Thanks for tuning in.